Hey guys, 2020, I think is going to be one of the best bow hunting years ever. I mean, the weather, the way it feels out there, the attitudes of the deer that I'm seeing, seem to be more active than any other season that I've been a part of for the early part of it. The first 15 days have, in my opinion, have been some of the best bow hunting that I've seen in a long time. You know, the opener came around, and would you believe it? Bam! We get the first cold front on the opener, and that first hunt that I went into was generally hot. You're usually like taking clothes off because you're so hot and it's just sweaty. Here it is, it's cold, it feels great. This particular food plot I decided to hunt that I planted, I saw over 10 to 12 deer that night. It turned out to be just a fantastic hunt, just an amazing opener because of that cold front. There were bigger bucks up on their feet because I was getting some photos of those deer. They just didn't decide to show up in that plot that I was hunting on that evening. From there, I started jumping into some of my other stands, and you know, I was seeing deer. I had multiple encounters of does and some smaller bucks. For me, the early season is all about getting into some of these stands that you're going to hunt and making sure they're set up properly and that you're pretty much ready to go for go time, right? Go time generally happens during the rut and later in the year. Sometimes I don't have time to get to all these stands that I have to be able to make sure they're perfect before the season. So I kind of basically hunt my way through these stands to make sure that they're all dialed in and ready to go. The next favorite hunt that I went on to start the season off was an AM hunt. Usually AM hunts this time, they are really tough because either you got to have a plan to sneak into those bedding areas before those bucks get back, and it can be really tough because a lot of times they're getting back to those beds almost with an hour to spare. So I have this one spot that I've been putting a lot of effort into. It's deep in the timber. It's just a good morning spot, and sure enough, I have an encounter with a great deer. Take a look. Well, I decided to let that buck pass because this year I've just got my hopes up for a couple different deer, and honestly on that particular farm that was one of the smaller bucks on that farm, so I figured I made a really good decision letting him have the pass. Now listen, I'm not gonna lie, if it was later November, maybe I'd be singing a different tune, but for now that buck got lucky. Well, from there I kept on hunting like I always do. The next decisions I was making was, where do I want to go next? And you know, Hacksaw has been a buck that's been on the list. He's been on the hit list for a year now, or 2 years. He's just a great buck. We were lucky enough to find his sheds last year. This year we knew he was alive because we started getting some trail camera photos of him, and he's just a big, he is just a cow of a deer. He's big, he's fat. He doesn't have this, 180-inch rack or anything. It's just a good quality buck, probably 150-inch deer, but he's just a shooter, period. There's a spot that I always hunt that we call the horseshoe. It's a neat little spot. There's a great little food plot in the corner. I had a stand on the other side, and I just over the last couple of years haven't been able to produce from that stand like I thought, so we decided to make a move and slide that stand in a different spot. Leave it to me to pick this little bean pole of a tree. Kurt and I wanted to slide back in there on a southeast wind to be able to hunt together, but we weren't planning for the 40-mile-an-hour gusts that they were talking about on that particular day, so we decided to abandon that plan and do something else in the meantime. Well, I decided to go back a couple days later because, again, I wanted to make sure that this stand was going to be ready to go and it was going to work. I slipped in there, and it turned out to be a pretty good hunt. Well, now I know that that stand's going to work. It was a good hunt. It was time to move somewhere else and wait for the next cold front to come in. Decided to jump back into a bedding area on an evening hunt because I know these deer, the closer it gets to the end of October, are going to start getting up and stretching their legs. Sure enough, I slip into one of my favorite stands to hunt. I call it the 192 stand, where I killed my big monster buck many years ago. And unfortunately, no mega monster showed up, but 3 little bucks did show up and show themselves. So it's a good rutting stand. I know it's all ready to go. So I figured at this point right now, it's another stand in my mind where I got it checked off. They'll be ready for the future. Would you believe it? Here comes the next mega cold front on October the 15th. Take a look what happens.
It's 5:55 right now. I haven't seen any deer yet, but the conditions are perfect. I mean, perfect. Something's got to show tonight. Got to. Guys, that was Hacksaw. I'm gonna have to replay the footage. And boy, oh boy, I stopped him because I needed to get my camera perfect. I wasn't at full draw, which was not the smartest move. I settled in. The shot definitely was a pass through because I saw the arrow. Oh, there's my arrow finally. Okay, I could see my arrow right there. I'm gonna have to replay the footage and see what I got. It didn't look too bad. Maybe just a little lower than I would like. Oh man.
Well, this is when deer hunting gets interesting. I always say the work becomes after the arrow is let go. And sure enough, that was the position I found myself in this case here. You know, I just didn't get that money shot that I wanted. I watched the footage multiple times and I could just tell it was lower than where I wanted to be. So I started putting together a plan, and I felt like in this particular case with this particular hit, the best thing to do for sure was going to let this deer sit overnight. There's no way I was going to risk going in early. I knew the shot was low. It was going to be a low lung, low liver, maybe even the front of the gut. So I just figured the smartest thing to do was to leave it to the next day. During that time, my brain started saying, you know, hearing a lot more about these dog trackers. I'm going to get on the horn and see if I can find one to give us a hand in the morning, because it just seemed to be the smartest thing to do. We were able to make contact with a dog tracker. He came out, he gave us a hand in the morning. We got started on the blood trail, which wasn't too bad, but unfortunately, it just didn't go the way that I wanted it to go, and we were not able to leverage the dogs as much as I wanted to. And sure enough, because of the type of shot, we did end up losing blood. The deer bedded down right away in 150 yards, and we found that spot, but after that, the blood went to 0, and we just felt with what we were seeing that this plan wasn't gonna work, so we decided to stop and regroup. During that time, you know, I made a couple other calls, and a friend of mine, Alex, said, Todd, you gotta call Tracker John. This guy is the bomb, and he is, I personally worked with him, he said, I'll never forget when his dog went under a railroad car to find his deer on the opposite side of it. He thought for sure the dog wasn't going the right way, and would you believe it, the deer actually went underneath a railroad car to die on the opposite side. So I was like, you know what? That's enough good information for me. Got a hold of Tracker John, and he came out to give us a hand.
See those dead trees? You come right here.
There's my tree stand right there in those dead trees. Yeah, I
see those angled one?
Yeah.
You can see the orange on.
Yeah, I see your stand.
So he's right there where I shot him, and then you can see the blood. It goes right
into here.
That limb and straight that way.
Got it.
So we've got Tracker John here now. This guy's the best. I mean, you know, he's telling me we need 75 yards of blood to get him going. He doesn't want to waste time with some of the stuff that we already found. He wants to go to the most active bedding sites. So we're going to take him where the buck bedded, and hopefully we can get a lead from there, because that's really what we need now. And hopefully this dog can just find the deer would be the bomb. If not, if he can at least get some additional clues to where if we have to start doing some grid searching, at least will get us into more of a zoned area. Because right now where he came out to this knob on Hunt Stand, I got 2 beds side by side. It was 92 yards from the other bed. And we don't know what he did from there. That's where we're at. So this is a double cross, and my legs are crossed.
Triple cross.
We got a triple cross.
So what's the law? You're not allowed to carry a bow, right? Isn't that the deal?
Cannot carry a bow, so we have no bow. No bows.
Well, I'm gonna film you jumping on his back and choking him out.
I'll do whatever we got to do, man. I got my.
We're going viral, crap.
Dude, we're going viral. If we got to stab him. Can't carry. I've never broncoed anything, but it may be my first. That was the first bed.
up this
Yeah,
trail.
that
and
was
around.
my last blood on that leaf right there.
That's last blood?
Yes, sir.
Well,
But
there's
then you've
more.
got another
Then I
bed.
got 2 more beds right through there.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll let her work it and see whether we end up at those beds.
Excellent.
Good girl. Good girl. Good girl.
He did his job on that. Those 2 beds. This is the end of the trail of what we could find. So now is when the real work begins. This is a real critical point right here. This will be interesting to see what happens right now. Because this is what we need a legitimate track on. All right, well, we haven't found a single speck of blood, but this dog is going. It seems to be on the trail. We're about 350 yards, almost 400 yards in. My guess was a 500 to 600 yard recovery. So, we're gonna see if I'm right.
Well, things are not looking good, boys and girls. Man, just can't seem to get on a reliable blood trail or track. This dog is pretty amazing, I got to admit. But man, there's just zero blood confirmation. I don't know. Seems like we're starting to hit a bit of a wall right here. So, check the trail camera that we walked by, just on the off chance that that buck walked in front of it. But that would have been too easy, right? So, a couple bucks on it last night and this morning, but not the one we're looking for. So, I don't know. Back we go. Hopefully they're on the track.
We gotta
Getting
go.
up there.
This is just crazy. We got some blood here. The dog is killing it. Looks like another dog, eh?
Oh, look at all the blood.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was beautiful, man. We're back in the cage. Yes, we are.
Yeah, that was a lot faster.
I got him. Oh, we got him. We got him. Dude, he went off to the right, and the dog was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I don't even know how John's arms are still connected to his body because
But that's exactly what you want to see is my arms getting stretched.
That's, I mean, it was,
That's a good sign.
it was I never been anything, I never seen anything like it. Listen, I gotta let you go. We just got a mega mess on our hands.
Dude, congratulations. Good. Hell yes. Awesome.
It's unbelievable.
Call me when you're done. Call me later.
Bye. Body on this thing, Mike.
The beast.
Oh, guys,
Beast.
here he is. I'm telling you right now, this never, John, I can't thank you enough.
You're very welcome.
I mean, I just can't. I mean, the job that dog did was something like I've never seen before. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, guys, the shot, well, this is the first shot right here. And I mean, this track was a long track. I think if we would have backed out, and we probably would have found him dead in that second or third bed,
Probably.
but the reality is we were on him and we figured we'd just keep doing our job, and we did find, we ended up finding him and catching up with him. So that's all that matters. This is Hacksaw. I cannot wait to weigh this deer. I mean, I don't even know what this thing's gonna weigh. This thing's gotta be 250 plus pounds. I mean, this thing is unbelievable.
Anyone that's been in my shoes before knows just that pure relief that you feel when you find your buck of a lifetime. Definitely would not have been possible without John and his dog for sure. But what I want to do is show you specifically what this deer did and where we ended up finding him. So this was the stand that I was hunting where I shot Hacksaw. Shot the deer right here. This was the blood trail where we had good blood, taking us to the first bed where he actually bedded down. From this point here, the blood basically disappeared. When we brought John the tracker in, we basically parked here, went down this trail, and amazingly enough, John was telling us that the dogs only need about 75 yards to be able to pick up the actual scent and signature of this deer. From this point here, the dog immediately took us on a track to these two spots right here. These two spots were not blood, these were actual beds where the buck bedded down. From this point here, the dog starts doing circles to be able to pick up where the actual deer went from a track. There was so much sign in this particular area that the dog kept wanting to bring us back down to this area here. And you can see by all these circles that we're doing. All these circles are the dog looking for the actual signature of that deer. We had a trail camera set right here where we had multiple photos of Hacksaw spending his time right here. This was his main bedding area. After we realized what was happening, or John realized what was happening, is the dog wanted to keep bringing us back out to where I killed him the night before because there was so much scent where he was bedded. So what John did was he reset the dog at the blood, which then got us going again. And as you can see, we start doing these circles again. And this is the dog looking for the signature. And finally, on one of the loops, bam, right here is where we pick up the next signature, which gets us to the next bed, and that's where the real excitement took place. Because during this whole entire time of us looking for this deer in this area, that buck was bedded down literally no more than 70 yards from where we were at. Here, the deer got up and ran another 150 yards. This was a killer blood trail. Justin and I were running as fast as we could to try to keep up with John and the dog because the deer got up and ran this way and there was blood everywhere. I mean, it was just painted everywhere. We thought for sure the buck would expire on this trail. And would you believe it? Unfortunately, it didn't. We got up to this next bedded spot here and it was one where the blood basically just disappeared. And the same thing happened again. The dog just starts doing these very methodical circles, as you can see. This is my actual track that I laid. And then right here, bam, the dog picked up the smell of the dog. Now remember, we cannot find any blood in here whatsoever. The dog is looking for the signature of that deer. Bam, we pick it up here. We're hot on the trail again, which led us to these multiple other spots where we jumped the buck, and finally the buck expired and we caught him at this location here. But it literally took us using the dog to follow where the buck was bedded down to the final spot where we caught up to them. Hey guys, thanks for watching. We've got a lot of season ahead of us. Quite frankly, the best part of the season is still to come. I know a lot of team members are telling me they're starting to see some good deer up on their feet. So now's the time to get ready, guys, and get out in the woods.